it seems like we blinked and we're already at this time of year, as we are now less than a month from the home opener at MVP Arena in Albany for the Albany FireWolves. The team opens up the season on the road on Friday, December 1st against Las Vegas, but then 1 week later, they're home against the Buffalo Bandits on Saturday, December 9th, 2023. Tickets and more information at albanyfirewolves.com. And here to give us an update on where the team sits as we enter into the second week of November, we welcome in the head coach of the Albany FireWolves, and that is Glenn Clark. Coach Clark, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm well, Dan. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Pumped to have the season just right around the corner here in 23-24. I know the group is now together and beginning the training camp process. So for the weekend that you guys spent together last weekend, what were some of the first impressions on what you saw from the group?
Lots of good. I mean, we saw we had some players come in, some young guys that we had drafted last year, and I think we've talked about this in the past, wanting to be a little more consistent, a little more dangerous on offense, and certainly getting the guys we drafted in Simmons and Kurtz and the maturation of Walker and Powless and guys like that. The offense looked good last weekend, so we got a good test against external competition on Sunday, so we're excited to see what that looks like.
So what does the preseason look like for your group? As you mentioned, getting the guys together last weekend, but from where we sit here on November 10th until the opener on December 1st, what does that schedule look like for you guys?
So we were in Albany last weekend, Toronto this weekend, Toronto next weekend, and then back in Albany for our final weekend.
Okay.
So it kind of starts off with a little bit of more evaluation than preparation, and kind of shifts about midway through to really getting to the preparation phase once you've had a look at guys and made some decisions on roster, and then you start fine-tuning for the opener against Vegas.
It's kind of amazing how that all comes and goes in such a short amount of time, but that's a very good look at that. And I was also curious from your perspective, not only as the head coach, but also as the general manager of this group as well. What does your off season look like from, I guess, the final horn of the season up until when you get the guys back into training camp? What does that process look like for you and the staff?
Other than my golf game? Do you mean like what's happening? Okay, you mean business-wise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know there's some pleasure mixed in, but yeah, the business side. How do we get from the end of the 22-23 season to the beginning of 23-24 with a new look roster?
So you're always kind of you've always got one eye on the future. So you're always obviously looking to the draft, looking to free agency, seeing what's going to happen in attrition, whether it's retirement or players moving on. So you take inventory of what you've got moving forward, and then what are the pieces you need to fill in around. So it starts a little bit with free agency. It starts with signing internally your own guys, and then you look towards the draft and what are the needs and what's going to be available or what you anticipate will be available depending on where you're picking. So it's really just sort of an inventory of what you have, what you're going to maintain, and what you need going forward. And you can do it through free agency. You can do it through the draft, trades. So it's really just putting the pieces and the puzzle together of what you think is going to make you successful in the present and the future.
Now, I know you and I have spoken about this a couple of different times because it's a very fascinating wrinkle into the team building process from my perspective at least. But COVID-19 changing the way that college graduates are treated with the fifth year of eligibility, how has that kind of impacted the way that you look at not only your team in front of you that year, but also the teams in years coming based on that fifth year of eligibility?
It's made it trickier. I think for the COVID drafts, we've really focused on what we think is best player available.
Okay.
Regardless of whether they're going back or not. We are in a position where we want to be acquiring assets, getting a little bit younger, increasing our talent base. So we've really focused on what is the best fit for us over the next 5 years, not over the next season.
Sure.
So whatever we've chosen, it's been sort of independent of whether they're going back to school, available to play. We've really made that focus. And thankfully, this is the last year of those COVID drafts. So next year, players that are available in the draft will be available to play right away.
Very nice. Okay, so an interesting change and kind of return to normalcy coming up in the team building process. The voice you're hearing is that of Glenn Clark, the head coach and general manager of the Albany FireWolves. Again, we're less than a month away from the home opener at MVP Arena, so get your tickets and get more information at albanyfirewolves.com. Follow the team on Twitter as well at AlbFireWolves for up-to-the-minute information on the group as we get ready to go in the NLL. Coach, one of the players that fans will not see on the turf this season, longtime captain and longtime member of the franchise since back in Philadelphia, and that is Brett Manney. Just a thought on your experience working with him as a player and also as a leader, because he's been synonymous with the franchise for quite some time. So your experience with him.
Yeah, it's been a long relationship. When I started back in 2015 with the Black Wolves in New England, and,
right?
Brett is, he's. When you look for a captain, there's a lot of characteristics, and he certainly embodies them all. But one of the things you need that conduit between players and staff, and somebody that both groups trust. And he was that guy. He was great in the locker room. He was a great reference for staff in terms of getting the temperature and how the room is. So going to be missed. He was a contributor, obviously on the floor, off the floor, but Father Time is undefeated, and he got to a point where it was time, right?
Sure.
Your body had a young child, and I think he's 37, 38. So it's a hard game, and it takes its toll. So we had those dialogue. We had that dialogue over the summer, and I think he was deciding well into September, and then finally thought, you know what, it's the right time. So
right.
He's transitioning out of it, but we'll hopefully find a way to keep him involved somewhat. But it was he had a great tenure, and to be an American-born captain in the NLL is not all that common. Right. So he did a real good job of that.
I do hope he'll remain involved too, because our dealings with him, my dealings personally, working on the radio and then the TV side, have always been nothing but the best, and you knew that you could always rely on him for a good soundbite one way or another. But always really enjoyed that. Last thing, Coach, before we let you go, because I know you are on the road out to Ontario right now, so been very generous with your time. You mentioned briefly off the top talking about the offense and the way that you want to be a bit more aggressive in that regard. Are there any other goals that come to mind and things that you're looking to see from this year's group as either improvements, changes, or different things that fans can expect from the 23-24 FireWolves?
Yeah, we want to obviously put ourselves in the fight a little bit better than we did last year. Last year was a tough season, and I think we've kind of documented all the hiccups along the way.
Sure.
So we want to be, stabilized. We want to start climbing back towards that 500 level, getting back into the playoffs. And it's always been a longer-term vision since we started getting the first-round picks and acquiring that talent base. So this, I think, is the year that we start feeling the fruits of that labor and getting a little bit more relevant in the league. And we think we've got the base and the talent to have a consistent winning team for the next 5 to 7 years with this group.
Very exciting heading into year number 3 here for the FireWolves in Albany, New York at MVP Arena. Get your tickets, get more information at albanyfirewolves.com. He is the head coach and the GM of the FireWolves, Glenn Clark, and always a friend of the drive with Charlie and Dan. Coach, thank you for your time. As always, safe travels as you continue with training camp, and we'll catch up with you real soon.